Hello and welcome back to another Doctor Who action figure product review. Today I'm going to be taking a look at yet another release from the Character Options B&M exclusive line of action figures of 2019 in the first of three rather exciting Doctor Who collector sets of 5.5 action figures, which are of course a collaboration between Character Options and none other than the audio drama company Big Finish Productions, as today I'm going to be taking a look at the 8th Doctor and Dalek Interrogator Prime from the 8th Doctor Time War series, and I feel like I'm dreaming. I'm reviewing a Big Finish action figure set. How incredible is that? This is my two worlds colliding. I have wanted this for so long. So as with all of the Doctor Who B&M 2019 collector sets, these are going to be available from August 2019 from retailers throughout the UK. They are of course going to be limited edition releases, however there is going to be more stock than usual, so they are going to be a little bit easier to find. And the Big Finish website are also going to be stocking some slightly different altered sets that are very slight variants compared to the one that I'm going to be reviewing today. The recommended retail for this product is $19.99, and if you're a Big Finish fan, then I certainly recommend picking it up because it's an 8th Doctor from Dark Eyes. What else could you want? So taking a look at the packaging of the product, it is a really lovely hybrid between a Character Options action figure set and a Big Finish cover. So as you can see at the very top, we do get the Doctor Who logo and the 8th Doctor infamous sidebar around the very side. As you can see, we do also have this preview window to view the product on the inside of the box, which does also extend around to the side, where there is the promotional images of the product itself. At the very bottom, it does have a limited edition sticker along with the title of the set being the 8th Doctor and Dalek Interrogator Prime action figure set. On the opposite side, it states that this is from the Time War series, and of course you do have the Big Finish and Character Options logo. Along the sides of the box, we get the Big Finish cover art from the Time War story A Starship of Theseus, the first episode from the 8th Doctor Time War series, with the Big Finish logo printed once again. At the back of the box, we continue this rather nice stylish design with the Doctor Who logo at the very top, and we do also get an image of In the Garden of Death, the Big Finish cover art, which is apparently the story that the Dalek in this collector's set is from. And to finish off, we also get a little bit of a write-up about the 8th Doctor Time War series, which I do believe is also the Big Finish description available on the website. And without further ado, now we've taken a look at the packaging, I can finally open the product itself. Greeted by this rather interesting backdrop of what appears to be a Dalek battle going on in space with a few planets in flames below, which is a really lovely and cool touch, and I do believe that this backdrop is also used on the John Hurt set. So here we have the 8th Doctor and the Dalek Interrogator Prime out of the box, and both of them look absolutely brilliant. Now of course, from what I understand and predict, this set is in fact going to be attracting a lot of attention from not just Doctor Who action figure collectors, but also fans of Big Finish audio dramas who may or may not have collected Doctor Who action figures before. Therefore, I would just like to briefly mention what the main idea behind the Doctor Who B&M series is. And basically it is about creating brand new action figure variants or new figures entirely by using pre-existing Character Options action figure parts from either Doctor Who previous action figures or other 5.5 action figures that Character Options have released from other TV shows. And for that reason, this set does of course consist of some previously used sculpts. So to start off with, and quite obviously, we have the Dalek itself, which is naturally a 2005 bronze Dalek that has been repainted and recoloured in a brand new set of colours. And then of course we have the 8th Doctor in his blue leather jacket as seen in Dark Eyes, Doom Coalition, as well as Ravenous. Now this is quite obviously the 9th Doctor body, of course with the 8th Doctor head added on top from the Night of the Doctor action figure. And I must admit, I actually think that this works really well. I'm just happy to have this set, and they've done a really good job of actually creating something that does look very cool on the shelf. And another variation of the 8th Doctor, what is not to like? So firstly, I'm going to take a look at the Dalek Interrogator Prime from the 8th Doctor Time War story In the Garden of Death, as written by Guy Adams. It is so unusual referring to Big Finish technical details within a product review, but I absolutely love it, and I hope it happens so much more in the future. So this Dalek, as I mentioned earlier, is basically just your modern 2005 bronze Dalek sculpt, the more updated, slimmer and more accurate in proportion version, just painted in a brand new colour scheme. From what I've been told, and and from what I've heard and from what I can recall of the 8th Doctor Time War episode, basically there is no visual description of what this Dalek actually looks like. Therefore, Character Options have taken creative license, essentially, and created a Dalek that just looks pretty cool, and I think that they've done certainly a very good job of that. I imagine that a lot of younger fans will love to have this as a part of their Doctor Who collection and be able to have this with their other Daleks, considering it looks completely different to the ones that we've seen before. But naturally, if you're a fan of 5.5 action figures, you've also seen this sculpt many times before as well. Well, starting off at the very bottom of the Dalek, we of course have the fender, which is your usual sculpt as per every other modern series bronze Dalek. We of course have the different angular and panel sections that have been really nicely detailed by using a series of rivets on each individual side, really making it feel like this Dalek has been put together in a Scaro factory. It does look very powerful and almost like a tank, and is of course something that is used throughout the entire design of this Dalek, and this is of course entirely sculpted as your standard black plastic. Moving up from this, we have the skirt of the Dalek, which is once again exactly the same sculpt from what you can expect from a modern series Dalek. This time round, of course, the skirt itself has been detailed by using this rather nice darker shade of blue, and then the actual orbs, or whatever you want to call them, have of course been detailed using a rather nice silver paint app. Now, what I really like to see is that there isn't really much paint bleed on this whatsoever. Normally you would have a little bit around the sides where it would link to the blue, cover the sculpt a little bit. However, it is nice to see that the paint apps are indeed rather sharp, and in fact on each individual orb we do also have a little bit of weathering that has been applied over the top as well, so it isn't just a standard solid silver, it does actually have a bit of additional detailing with a few brush strokes of brown and other darker colours in there as well. Moving up to the middle section now, we do of course have the weaponry area. Once again, this has been detailed rather nicely with a really lovely sculpt. We have the slats running around the side, along with the detailing of the many different rivets and things in there, and we do of course also have this section along the very bottom here as well, this nice trim, which once again gives a very good look at that different weathering and brushstroke that has been applied over at the very top, having different colours of browns and blacks in there to make the Dalek look very battered. And then of course the middle section underneath is just painted in your standard blue colour. Coming around to the front, we do also have the sockets of the weaponry, which have been detailed rather nicely with a silver highlight around the sides. The gun itself is just your usual modern day bronze Dalek sculpt in the slim design, as opposed to the original big bulky Dalek gun. I'm sure we can all remember those from when the Character Options line first started back in the day. And then of course at the opposite side of the gun we do also have the manipulator armour, exactly the same sculpt to usual. Some really lovely detailing on the actual sucker itself, having the different individual panels, and even a few nuts and bolts around the side there just below the actual sucker itself, which although I've had this sculpt in my collection for many years, I've never in fact noticed those little rivets. Even though this is a reused sculpt, you still notice new details even if you've had it in your collection for many years. Just above this we have once again your usual neck section, which has the very nice detailing of the inner mesh on the inside of the column itself. Once again, this has just been sculpted in your usual black, and then of course around the sides we have these circular discs which have just been painted in your standard darker blue. In between this we do of course have these singular columns, once again with a few rivets on these, which is a really nice touch, and once again there isn't really any paint leak on this whatsoever, so I'm very impressed by this, because some of the more recent Daleks in recent years have had a bit of paint leak, so I'm very happy to see that that's been touched up on this figure release. As per usual, the dome of the Dalek does have a series of different details, including panels and rivets. It has been given a really lovely silver paint app. As for the actual ear bulbs themselves, of course these have been sculpted in just your standard plastic. If I was to be really picky, it would have been nice to see these edge sections painted with a bit of a silver paint app. It is nice to see that the tops of them have been given a little detail, but once again that is literally just me digging the bottom of the barrel for any different bits of criticism in order to make this review not entirely positive, because to be quite honest, this Dalek is near enough perfect in every way. Of course we do have the eye stalk as well, just your usual standard sculpt, painted with the silver paint app. We do of course also have the discs in the very middle with your standard clear plastic, and then of course the eye stalk there at the very end with your little pale blue paint app, once again sculpted in a black plastic with a series of different grooves on once again. And just to finish off with the Dalek Interrogator Prime, we all know what this Dalek would look like with other Daleks because it's the same sculpt, just in a different colour, but I'm going to show it anyway because it looks cool and I really like it. So here we have the Dalek next to a various amount of different bronze Daleks released over the years. This one here is one that I've picked up very recently from the Parting of the Ways Toys R Us set. That was a very recent addition to the collection, and of course we go back to the very beginning with a rather chunky looking bronze Assault Dalek in there as well. So yeah, if you want just a cool looking Dalek to add to your collection, then this one is definitely one of them. So now moving on to the 8th Doctor, as portrayed by Paul McGann, of course in his blue leather jacket, as seen throughout Dark Eyes, Doom Coalition and Ravenous. And I'm just very thankful that Character Options didn't go for another re-release of the Night of the Doctor costume, because having the possibility of having this figure and then deciding to go with another re-release of the Night of the Doctor, 8th Doctor, will probably make me cry. So I'm very happy that we finally got a variation of the 8th Doctor from Big Finish in arguably one of his best costumes of all time. And of course, as I mentioned earlier, it doesn't really take a great detective to work out that the main body for this figure is of course the base sculpt of the 9th Doctor standard release with the usual legs as opposed to the disco dancing version, and I must say it does work rather well. So starting off at the very bottom of the figure, we do have the boots. These are just exactly the same to the 9th Doctor ones, however painted in a slightly different manner. So of course at the very bottom we do have the suggestion of the soles of the boots that have been painted in a dark brown colour, and then the rest of the boot have been painted in a standard chocolatey brown colour. Other details on this include the slight suggestion of the laces at the very top, and what looks like a small ridge at the very front to maybe suggest that they are steel toe cap boots, possibly. I don't really know the costumes of the 9th Doctor, but it does work rather well. Moving further up the figure now to the trousers, we now have a slight revision of paint app, as of course the 9th Doctor completely black trousers are now gone, and they have been replaced with a form of what looks like denim jeans. So as you can see, we have a darker blue base colour that has been applied underneath, and then on top of this we do have this rather effective lighter blue brushstroke that has been applied over the top in the denim trousers, which does look rather effective. And naturally, due to this using the 9th Doctor sculpt, do have also the sculpting of the creases of the material in there as well, which does once again look very effective and does actually make the trousers look very similar to that of a regular pair of denim jeans. So I do quite like that, makes the outfit look pretty effective. The leather jacket itself, of course, is now in a rather nice dark blue colour to reflect that of Dark Eyes Paul McGann, as opposed to that of the 9th Doctor. This is once again naturally quite effective because, of course, both jackets from both the 8th Doctor and the 9th Doctor are made of pretty much exactly the same material. Therefore, the sculpting from the original 9th Doctor figure looks very effective on this release because it still looks like a type of leather, to say the least. So we, of course, have, as per usual, the same details to that of a standard 9th Doctor figure, where we have the collars coming around the side that are rather big. We have these individual little button loops running down the side, and the suggestion of the golden buttons in the very middle. Towards the sides of the figure, of course, moving back the arms, we do also get the suggestion of the pockets at either side, along with further stitching details as well as further creases within the actual material itself. The same is also prominent for the opposite side, where we have the suggestion of the pocket once again, and also a slightly upper pocket at the side as well. Taking a look at the back, once again, exactly the same details to that of the 9th Doctor, as you would come to expect, just in a blue colour this time round, with of course this ridge detailing, the stitching details, and of course the buckle at the very back, which from what I understand is certainly not present on the 8th Doctor Dark Eyes costume, at least I believe. Of course the actual costume from Dark Eyes is a lot different to this. It is a very similar situation to that time of the 50th anniversary when Character Options released the Planet of the Daleks 3rd Doctor in the purple outfit, and of course that sculpt is completely wrong because of course the collar does come all the way across the side here in almost one big triangular piece, and that is in fact very similar for this coat as well. Of course that does normally come over here, and we have the messenger bag coming around the side as well, so that is nothing like that original figure, but as I say, still works rather well. I know exactly what costume it is meant to be portraying at least, and it is the best that they could do without doing another sculpt entirely, so I really do praise them for it. It's very effective. Underneath, of course, where you would normally have the many different colours of 9th Doctor t-shirts, this time round this has just been replaced by a standard white shirt with a series of creases on there, which once again works just as well as the t-shirt that Paul McGann wears under the Dark Eyes leather jacket. The arms of the figure are once again exactly what you would expect. The same detailing from the jacket is continued onto the leather jacket arms themselves. And as for the actual hands, of course we have one hand sculpted to hold a sonic screwdriver, which sadly he does not come with, and then the other hand has been sculpted in just your standard open palm position. Now I don't quite know if there was an agreement between Big Finish and character that there wouldn't be any new retooling on these sets, because that does certainly seem to be the case within the 3 sets that have been released, but it would have been really nice to see a Dark Eyes sonic screwdriver accessory for him to hold in his hand. I suppose you could make one if you really wanted, but yeah, it would have been nice to see that included within the set, or even at a push, maybe even pack him with the River Song sonic screwdriver, because it's kind of the same colour, it's not necessarily the same shape, but it works kind of just as well. I may even display him with it, because it kind of looks a little bit wrong without it. And finally, for sculpting and paint details, we do of course have the head sculpt of Paul McGann. Now, this is just a direct reuse of the sculpt as used on the Night of the Doctor 8th Doctor figure that was released for the 50th anniversary, and it works well. Of course, he's got his short hair, much like how he had within Night of the Doctor. Very unusually, there was the actual Dark Eyes head that was sculpted that came alongside the War Doctor, very oddly, don't quite know why, but it did come with that figure, and that was apparently sculpted for the Dark Eyes version of the 8th Doctor. And a lot of people said it would have been nice to see that head packaged on this figure, but I don't know what it is with that sculpt. I think that it looks a little bit too wide in the face. This one is a lot more suited to Paul McGann's actual bone structure, therefore I'm kind of happy that they used this head, but for the sake of accuracy, it does look a little bit unusual. So we do have a few paint apps on this. As you can see, his very thick eyebrows, and then the suggestion of his eyes in there as well. So look a little bit concerned, I must admit, which kind of makes sense considering that he is a Doctor within a time war and the entirety of the universe is burning. He does look a little bit worried, which I suppose is quite fitting. Of course, turning around to the sides of the figure, we do also have the detailing of the hair, which has been really nicely brought out. I think that on a side profile it does actually look quite a lot like Paul McGann, although his nose does look a little bit squished, I must admit. Have a few detailings on the hair, of course, the different strands of hair and the different curls in there that have been nicely brought out by a slightly greyish looking paint highlight, and the same does also apply as well all the way around to the back of the figure as well. I do believe that this has been given once again a slightly different paint app to the original Night of the Doctor version in order to look a little bit darker. Considering that Paul McGann is a Doctor that only has one TV movie and of course a 7-minute minisode, he is doing pretty well for figure variations. So here we have 4 of them. There is of course another 5th one available in the 13 Doctors collector set, of course the bloodied version of the Night of the Doctor 8th Doctor. I do have that one, it's just in the box, and quite frankly I can't be bothered getting it out because it's currently on display at the very back of my cabinet. But here we have a lot of the different variations and some really nice choices and variations in costume as well. We have comic book Paul McGann, movie McGann, Dark Eyes McGann, and now Night of the Doctor McGann. So he's certainly a Doctor that has gone through a lot of costume variations, and it is just simply lovely to have an 8th Doctor from the Big Finish series to in fact be represented as a part of our figure collection, and he fits in incredibly well. Due to using the 9th Doctor body, there is a few points of articulation missing on this figure, but there's nothing really too noticeable. So we do have 360 at the head, 360 at the arms, 360 at the upper arms, bend at the elbow, I do believe 360 at the wrist, 360 at the waist, and bend at the knee as well. There's no upper thigh articulation, and there is of course the T-crotch joint, so there is a good enough amount of articulation to put him in some dramatic Time War-ish poses. So overall, for the Doctor Who B&M exclusive 2019 8th Doctor and Dalek Interrogator Prime action figure collector set from the 8th Doctor Time War series from Big Finish, I still can't quite believe we've got Big Finish action figures, and I absolutely love it. And I think that if we are to see any more Big Finish action figures in the future, it will be absolutely brilliant, and this is a really brilliant way to start. A really lovely variation upon the 8th Doctor's costume, and I think a really effective one as well. Yes, it is quite obviously the 9th Doctor's body repainted. Yes, it does have quite a few inaccuracies to that of the Dark Eyes cover art costume, but I don't really care. I still think it looks cool. It's nice to have the representation of Big Finish on the action figure shelves, and of course, just to add to that, we have a really cool looking Dalek that once again is just your standard basic modern day bronze Dalek sculpt, but painted in some really cool colours. And after all, I've been saying for many years now that they could release Dalek after Dalek after Dalek in many different colours. It doesn't even have to appear within the TV show itself, and I would most probably buy it because I just love Daleks and I love them in any weird colours possible, even if they didn't appear within the TV show itself. And I imagine that for the younger fans as well, who don't particularly care about canonicity or just having action figures from the TV show itself, they just want a cool looking Dalek, then no doubt this product will be something that definitely may interest them. So if you're a Big Finish fan, then I certainly recommend buying this set. Naturally, of course I do, because it is Big Finish action figures. And of course, if you are a fan of Doctor Who action figures as a whole, then I do also recommend trying to track down this set, because it is a really good price at $19.99, definitely worth it, and it is lovely to have another variation of the 8th Doctor to add to the collection. Of course, it is also worth noting that Big Finish are releasing a slightly different version of this set on their website. I do believe that there is only going to be 100 units available, or 150, something like that, and it is going to be slightly different to this release. So my personal prediction is that either there is going to be the other version of the 8th Doctor head from the War Doctor set, or that the Interrogator Prime Dalek is going to have the weathering on the actual armour removed, so it's just going to be a standard plain Dalek with these colours looking a little bit more new, as opposed to kind of battered slightly. It's only going to be something slight, it's not going to be major, but once again for action figure collectors that is something certainly worth keeping an eye on. Thank you very much for watching this review. I hope you have enjoyed it. If you have any questions about the 8th Doctor and Dalek Interrogator Prime set, then please do leave them in the comments section below, and I will of course reply to them at some point in the near future. And of course maybe even leave in the comments section below what you would like to see from Big Finish action figures using some pre-existing sculpts that have of course been released by Character Options in the past. So thanks again for watching, and I shall see you all next time. Bye for now.